topic, how to leverage technology to enhance your fundraising efficiency. Do not be fooled. It will not replace us doing our job and connecting and having relationships and real conversations with real people. But guess what technology can do? It can do a lot of things to help free up all the time that we perceive to not have to go and actually have said conversations so that we can make asks, so that we can bring in the money. I think it's often times that we feel like we have so much coming at us that we can't possibly get out of the office and go do the things that are actually what we were hired to do as staff and what we were intended to do as volunteers. But with some great technology hacks and tricks and tips, you can definitely be a lot more efficient so that you can be more effective with your fundraising. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Pride's fundraising technology expert, Jake Lyons.
Right. And just to echo Marty a little bit, again, I know we're going to talk about my favorite thing, which is like technology and efficiency and all the new cool AI tools. And we'll make very specific recommendations for all kinds of different categories. But we do want to emphasize up front, fundraising is a job you will not do well behind your desk. And pretty much all of these tools are ones that you use behind your desk. Not all of them, but like that's kind of the theme of today. We're looking at a very specific lane. We say, hey, we're going to take 20% of our job and we're going to make it really, really strong and efficient, but keeping in mind that 80% of our job is done out in the fundraising field. Next slide. There are plenty of wonderful tools that can make your job much easier. It's never a replacement for sitting down with donors, but next slide. We're going to talk through a whole series of the most useful technology tools kind of by category. So the first note is we don't have any paid affiliation with any of these companies. So if we're recommending something, it's because we either know it and like it. I would say over half of these tools we use internally at Pride, and maybe 75% we use with our individual clients as well. So almost all of these we are very familiar with. So if you have additional questions or want recommendations, or does this tool do that, or I'm trying to solve this problem, we probably have the answer if we have used this tool. So these are ones that we have tested. We have a lot of them we used for years and we love, and we're just going to share kind of the best ones with you. So here's how we would like you to participate if you can. So as we get to each tool, if you can just go in the chat, whether you use it or not, a thumbs up, or you can just say yes or no if you don't want to use an emoji. A thumbs up means yes, I use this. A thumbs down means no, I do not use this, or I have never used this. And then how much value you feel like you get, scale of 1 to 10. 10 is like, I cannot live without this thing. My job would be a failure without it. A 1 is like, I don't think that I get anything out of it at all. A 5 is kind of right down the middle. So just yes or no. And if you do use it, kind of rate it 1 to 10. This gives us a little bit of a litmus test of, hey, here's how the group also perceives these. So we'll give you kind of our opinion. You'll be able to see kind of the collective opinion in the chat. Pride team, y'all can use that chat feature as well. If you use it with your own personal work or with your own clients, just to kind of add to the data a little bit. And as we go through this, there's kind of 6 categories of technology. We're kind of going levels 1 to 6, each with increasingly powerful tools and also increasing complexity. So level 1 is like your basics, and level 6 is like your uber advanced, and we will scale and get progressively more advanced as we go. If you say, oh, I've got a tool in 4 or 5 that I feel like is way more advanced than this one that you did on 1, it's like, well, maybe this is just kind of our, arbitrary rating of, we feel like this tool is more advanced than this tool. So we're going to go levels 1 through 6. You're going to say yes or no, I use that tool, and then how much value you feel like you get if you do use it. So we're going to start with Marty at level 1.
Thank you, Jake. Okay. AI text generation idea brainstorming. Who is using ChatGPT a little bit? Who is using AI text generation? Jake, thanks. Come on, anyone? We did an entire session on this at PDI.
Okay. It's a good split. About half and half so far.
Well, yeah, awesome. Now, sorry, I only saw Jake at first, but everyone started to follow. Okay. We've got a couple who haven't. For those of you who have, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are we at? I see there was a 5, but oopsie. What did I do? I accidentally hit the screen share. Okay. Jake gives it a 10. Emily 6. Yeah. 5 and 6. It looks like we're getting some. So I've got to tell you, with the AI, to use it for text generation and idea brainstorming is really incredibly simple. It can be more difficult. You can make it more difficult, and you can make it do more sophisticated things if you know how to prompt it right. But it is easy to play with and just get a start. This is one that I feel very much makes me personally more creative. I think there's a almost a fear of getting started on something like this for some people, because it's like, oh gosh, what is this actually going to do? But when you do it, you start to realize it's helping you generate more new ideas of yours. And it's not just like saying, hey, here's this like, vanilla idea that came from AI. So I really encourage people to try it, because it just gets the juices flowing, and it cuts down tremendously on time to sort of take you to that place where you can use your creative energies. So for idea generation and brainstorming, really, really useful. How many of us use that online recurring giving platforms on your website? I hope y'all are using this. This is such a tool. I think it's very, very impactful when you are able to equip and empower your annual gifts team to go out there and actually make proactive asks like, hey, would you consider making a monthly gift of $10 or of $20 or whatever the amount may be that you're trying to hit for an annual gift? Because people are used to, their Netflix subscriptions, their Hulu subscriptions. They're used to getting things kind of set up on autopilot, and they're happy with it. Don't mess with it. Just let it keep going. And that then becomes the opportunity for them to be those loyal supporters, and you don't have to go back to them all the time. They can take little bite-sized pieces and grow over time, and it gives you that opportunity to have that recurring revenue. So it looks like almost everyone's using that. That's got to be one that I would say is super user friendly. If you're not, you should be. Talk with us if you need help on getting it set up, but that should be integrated onto your website, and something that is just very simple for people to do. The pros far outweigh the cons of the little time investment to get it set up. Document collaboration tools. If anyone has done a feasibility study with us, you've probably used one of these. If you're not using them internally in your organizations, there's a huge missed opportunity. Dropbox, Drive, OneDrive. I know there are several others, but it's an opportunity for us to not have to say, here, I made my changes and let's send it back and forth, right? It makes updates in real time. It enables you to look at things at the same time. It enables you to know where the most current version of something is. I don't know about you, but before the days where they had this, you would go in and there would be like 17 different versions. We'd always have to save it by a date, and then you'd look, oh no, I missed the 2 in that date, and it messed it up, and now we have a really outdated version of something, right? So this can be really helpful. Trish calls that a 10. Thank you, Trish. I think it has definitely saved us some time and efficiencies over time on that one. So great. Any questions on this level 1? We're going to go a little more complex, and I'm going to kick it back to Jake.
All right. Level 2, let's do it. First one is video collaboration platforms, and Zoom is one of them. And there's a new feature where if you do this on a Mac, it makes fireworks, which is so much fun. Or you can do this gesture and it makes a laser show. There's all these kind of fun things that you can do. But Zoom is obviously incredibly useful for collaboration, for talking to donors. I don't need to go down the list. Loom, a little bit different. Would recommend you use this tool if you can. This is a way that you can screen record and then also do a narrating voiceover with your picture-in-picture, kind of like a FaceTime call in the corner. So if you're needing to train someone on how to use a document system, you can do it that way. A great way that we've seen some of our clients use it is as a way of editing a document instead of trying to make 50 notes, or even using the notes feature for Microsoft Word, or like send a list of edits in an email. Incredibly inefficient these days with what you can do with Loom. You just turn on the Loom, it starts screen recording. It's not live, so you can pause, you can rewind, you can do whatever you need. You can re-record if you mess something up, but you can then scroll through the document and say, hey, see here in paragraph 3, I think we need to loosen this up a little bit. This is getting a little bit off topic, or whatever we might do. You just kind of go through editing appeals. It's a great collaboration tool. And then you can send it asynchronously. And what I mean by that is you don't have to be online or on a call with someone. You can finish recording and you just send it as an email link. They can click through it and they can read and make those edits. So it's a great asynchronous tool to be able to collaborate live on a document together. Highly recommend you do it. It's very inexpensive as well. The next is, looks like, oh, I don't know if anyone would vote on that one. What about calendar management tools? So this is some kind of a digital calendar. So Calendly, which allows you to do booking, Outlook, iCalendar, Google Calendar. I think most of us, looks like we got all thumbs up across here. And this is kind of an obvious one, especially when we have a fundraising job. Obviously, schedule is kind of everything. I put my entire life in my calendar. I would literally not be able to survive without a digital calendar where I can move stuff around. I can set myself reminders. It's just a way to not have to remember anything, is the way I look at it. If someone says, hey, you want to have dinner, on Tuesday night? It's like, yes, I put it in my calendar immediately. I don't have to use my brain hard drive space to ever think about that, because I know that I have this. And the kind of idea of making a second brain is a fascinating one to me, using Notion and some of these other tools that we'll talk about in a minute. But calendar being kind of the first and foremost one. I don't have to remember where I'm supposed to be or what I'm supposed to be doing at any given time ever again, because I have this wonderful collaboration tool. The next one is collaboration platforms that focus on messaging and have this really wonderful document history by channel. Anybody use Slack or Teams? Let me get a thumbs up or thumbs down for Slack or Teams. There's others. These are the two main ones, largest by far. Teams is obviously the Microsoft version of a kind of chat system. Slack is another one. Okay, we got a pretty decent amount, half and half on that. One caution I would say about Slack and Teams, there's good data and there's some studies recently that it hits the same addictive kind of dopamine as Twitter. So if you have that like compulsion to check Slack or check Teams all the time, that's actually pulling you out of what you're thinking about. So there's ways that you can set notifications or set time blocks where you go in and actually review Slack and Teams stuff. But that little like, ooh, I need to check something, or what if there's a thing, or it puts the little red dot and it just, oh, I got to click it. What is that message? Even though it's not necessarily fun, it might be a work thing. It hits the same brain waves. They did a really cool MRI scan study where it does the same thing as like compulsively checking Twitter. So be a little aware on that. But in terms of collaboration, instead of using email, one of the best platforms you can use. All right. Number 3, Marty.
All right. If you are not using a CRM to track your donor and prospect data, you should be. I think I've said that already a few times, but it's very easy to have said tool and say, I'm just going to use an Excel spreadsheet because I know what I can do with this. But guess what? You're missing out on a huge opportunity to utilize that data. So I hope I'm getting thumbs up from everyone on this one. But I think, we have to, we have to make sure that not only are we using it, but we are tracking the data, right? Like that we know what our goals are with it and that we're putting the information in it that will be useful to us in the future. So just because it exists and that we pay a lot of money for it does not mean that we're using it effectively. So I think we got to make sure that we're asking questions. What are our goals with it? Are we pulling monthly reports? Are we utilizing those reports to take actionable steps in the future, those types of things? So I think it goes beyond just having one and making sure that we are functionally using it in ways that are advantageous. And if you're not, maybe assess that and take a look at how can we do this better next year, right? Financial management software, QuickBooks, I don't even know, Xero, Expensify. The idea is that it's all in one place. It's organized, it's simple, you can track things. Definitely, many of you probably have finance departments that you're integrating with, and your CRMs may have some, connectivity to this, but there are plenty of financial management software systems available that you can utilize. Anyone have questions using those, not using those? Anything on the functionality that it helps you with if you are?
I think it also, like Marty said, is like a organization size dependent. If you have your finances either outsourced to a department or an accounting firm, maybe you don't have to interface with this one as much. If you're a really small shop, tiny nonprofit, a lot of our clients are, you're probably the one who also has to do this as well. A lot of thumbs down, some thumbs up here.
Yeah. And I see the thumbs down are a lot in, a larger organization as well. So definitely that to keep in mind. And Jake, I'm going to actually ask you, I am not super familiar with the note taking.
Oh, sure.
Also,
I
always mention Notion.
I
So I'm
live on Notion. So I do use like the Second Brain. There's a really cool book called Second Brain if you want to read about how to do it. But it's basically you just organize every domain of your life. I use this not just for work, but for my entire life. Like I keep my medical records for myself. I keep stuff for like my house warranty and my car and my insurance and all the vet information for my dog and all of my goals and habit tracking. Like I do everything in Notion as if it's just one giant notebook. It's free. It's ridiculously powerful. It's really, really easy to use. If you've ever struggled with a task list or a task manager or a notebook and having your stuff in a million different places, put it all in Notion and it's just magically tracked. It's keyword searchable. It doesn't cost anything. We'll probably do a more deeper dive on this later, but this is one of the most powerful tools in terms of what I use. This is one of the biggest impacts for me. Evernote, also really similar software, I think slightly less good, also is paid. And then Apple Notes, which is just called Notes, does a lesser version of this as well, but it's super clean. It's end-to-end encrypted. There's a lot of great features that go with the Apple ecosystem. But Notion would be my first pick and recommendation for that. A lot of thumbs down. Try Notion. You'll like it, I promise.
So silly question, Jake, just because I am learning on some of these technology hacks. Notes on my phone. That's the Apple Notes one that you're talking about.
Correct. Yes. And Notion is just a slightly more powerful version of that. But just as simple, I would say. It's got more functionality. And again, we could probably do a whole either forum or even a whole academy on just how to do that well. But I love that kind of stuff. I think it's really, really neat.
And another one people may know as well from Microsoft is OneNote.
OneNote, yes, great point, Trish. That one also, if you have the Microsoft suite, is free. So that's another one that you might want to take a look at if you already have the Office 365 subscription through your work. Great point.
Awesome.
All right, level 4. Feedback and survey tools. Now, these are not complicated to use, but they're a little bit weird in use case. So can we get a thumbs up, thumbs down for either SurveyMonkey or Google Forms? They're a way to capture an enormous amount of data. I mean, you can use it for 10 people, but it has the server capacity and speed to do tens and even hundreds of thousands of people at once. It will not crash the site to have lots and lots of people. If you've gone through a feasibility study, as Marty said, you probably use SurveyMonkey with us. We try to be more on the Microsoft suite, but the Google suite does an amazing job too on collecting data. The Google Forms is free, slightly less features, less customizable. SurveyMonkey is paid, gets a little more functionality. Great way to send out donor surveys, to ask about events, all kinds of stuff. Highly, highly recommend you get accounts with them. The next would be event planning tools. Now, again, if you've been with us long enough, you know how we feel about fundraising events, but there are also wonderful recognition events or friend raising, quote unquote, events where we're connecting with new donors for the first time. We're doing cultivation events where then we can then follow up with one-on-one individual asks. And if you're a small shop, using something like Cvent or Eventbrite is better than doing it on your own, just as kind of a basic. One Cause, another great one, Will. I should have put that one on the list. Thank you for including that. One Cause also does a really nice job. It's one of those, all three of these really are that you can use all the crazy advanced features if you want, or you can just have it kind of organize the basics for you. So we would highly recommend any of these three companies. Again, varying prices. We actually did a forum a while back on kind of the pros and cons of different event management software. So you can either go back and access the recording if you want, but we also wrote a pretty detailed blog. So just go to our website and search event or event planning. It'll pull up that blog and give us a really, really detailed ones of which ones you should use and why. So if you're curious, you can use our free, no cost resource on the website there. The next is, how many of you use some sort of email marketing software or email management software? So like MailChimp, Constant Contact, where you have an email list where you can send an email to 5,000 people at once and schedule it and have it not go to their spam box, hopefully. Yeah, 9 thumbs up, thumbs up. So we are all pretty much using that. So that's great. MailChimp versus Constant Contact, honestly, a toss-up. They both do wonderful jobs of doing the right things. They're obviously very close competitors. I think MailChimp has a slightly larger user base. So if you feel like you need more people to put in good data to make sure it's working well, but if you don't have a way to be able to send a mass marketing message to as many people as you can, obviously tremendously cheaper than mailing out physical mailings. Every single year, direct mail declines a little bit more. It's not dead yet. We still try to send out physical things to a good group of our donors every single year with most of our clients. But every single year, emails are growing and snail mails are declining. It is not free. This is one of the like pricier things. I think it's based on your email list size. It might be even a couple $100 a month, but hails in comparison to what it costs to do a highly, highly expensive version of sending out physical mail. So those will become more and more prevalent, but also you can track things like the back end data you get, super simple. You can see how many people open your emails out of your list of 5,000. You can see what links they clicked on, all this crazy data on what they're doing. And if they, depending on the type of security they have on their computer, you can see who clicked on what. So you can go into and say, oh, I was able to, Jared clicked on this photo and he seemed like he was interested in this. So you can get a little stalkery with it. It's kind of scary what you're able to do if you have those, if you don't have like high-end security, but it's useful data to see where your donors are clicking, what they're clicking on and what they're interested in. So even if you're sending out an email newsletter, if it seems like a lot of people are clicking on your planned gifts article that you put in there, it's like, maybe we should do a specific mailing about planned gifts. We're getting an uptick in the amount of people who are excited about this. Again, no additional cost past just having the software to be able to know those things. So really, really useful tool that we use with a lot of our clients, highly recommended. Looks like all of you are dialed into that already. All right, level 5, we're getting up there.
Level 5. All right. Social media. I know everybody loves to talk about social media and how they need to do better at social media. And we always say, you don't need to spend a ton of time on it. You probably want to have a presence. You probably need to have a message out there, but you want to engage your volunteers to help spread things. But you do have to create content. You have to push it out appropriately and consistently if you're going to be involved, right? So Buffer, Hootsuite, these are some management systems that really can help you not only create the content, get collaboration with others while you're doing it. You can schedule them out a fair distance out into the future so that you are having that consistent, right? It's kind of the kind of thing you don't want to do like 10 posts in one day and then not again for the rest of the year, right? You have to space them out, but if you can create it, schedule them out so they'll get posted in a timely fashion, you can set it up and forget about it. Anyone using these will, yes, and other employees
Yes,
do
someone else
that.
does it, yeah. If you have a marketing department, they might be in charge of this for sure.
But definitely a useful tool if you are prioritizing putting some consistent content out there, which if you're going to be doing anything, you should be doing that, right? Marketing team, that's great. Marketing oftentimes is helping with
Yeah.
that. But it's helpful if you are wanting to generate your own content. Volunteer management. How about Volunteer Hub, Sign Up Genius? As I was preparing for this, I was thinking about, I'm sure back in the day, if we wanted to get volunteers engaged, we'd all have to pick up the phone or we'd have to send around a piece of paper at a meeting when we had everyone in the room. That would cut down on so much time, right? You send around the piece of paper with slots of time frames. And I mean, this really is important. Volunteers to help make things happen with specific time slots. If you're doing, events or specific things where you're needing them, a whole group of volunteers to help you execute something that you're doing. Sign Up Genius and Volunteer Hub are super helpful. Definitely very user friendly. I think they're both free. Do you happen to know, Jake? I don't think there's any cost involved with either of those. I think they make all their money on advertising.
Yeah, it's ads, and then there are like advanced things that you can do. But
Yeah.
like the basics are great. It's pretty easy. They have a pretty big user base, so they can sell you ads or sell
Yes.
you to other people like us.
Yes. Not going to probably help with the management of engaging your volunteer fundraising teams. But if you're like, hey, I need my annual gifts team to all sign up for a slot to help us with the recognition event, or we need everyone to help with the thankathon, fill in, the times that you're available. Really great tools for those types of things. Project management platforms. If you've done a planning session with us, we've used Team Gantt. We are just getting in the process of trying out the Teamwork app, which I understand is going pretty well. Really helps to manage your workflow, right? It's very easy to say we have 10 priorities. These things all have to get done right now. When we stop and take a step back, it's like, there's a difference between urgent and important, and we've got to do the important things, but you have to kind of constantly work on that workflow and have realistic expectations of what we have time in our day to do, and this helps us manage that flow. So anybody using any of those, Team Gantt, Teamwork, Asana, or Trello? Doesn't work without everyone using it. Was that for
Yeah,
will.
that's a good point. Like if
Yep.
you're not collaborating with everyone on it, like it's tough. It's not the best system if you're working alone. It's like a team collaboration platform. Um, yeah, project management also simple. Asana is pretty good. It's the company that the Netflix founder went and then founded after he stopped being the CEO at Netflix. It's a huge team Gantt. We've used that for years. We're kind of phasing it out. The features have become less good and the prices have gone up. We're working to transition into teamwork, which is a similar thing. And then Trello is the other huge player. Does a ton of the features are free, just like Asana. But really, to Will's point, works well when you have a team that you're collaborating with. If it's just you managing your own work, better to do it on a to-do list, obviously, or a calendar.
Awesome. Level
All
6.
right, final level. So this is only stuff that if you really want to get nerdy with it, like I do, this is just kind of fun things that you can do that are tools that are out there. You have to have a little bit of computer prowess to be able to do these things. The first is advanced data analysis through Google Analytics. You can look up and see what people are searching about you. You can have Google set up for free to email you anytime anyone mentions you on the internet, on Twitter, Facebook. Say if your organization name gets posted somewhere about something, you can have it free to set up an alert to your inbox to say, hey, someone posted about so-and-so organization, and you can see what they said. So it just kind of keeps you abreast of like, this is what people are saying about us without us knowing. Sometimes if they don't tag you on social media, it's hard to know, but this kind of scans and just says, hey, just so you know, this is kind of what you can also look at the historical data of that. So there's a really, really wonderful tools about how much you've been Googled. When people are Googling you, what else are they asking? Are they asking, what services you provide? Are they asking what your CEO makes for a salary? Like you're going to be able to see these things. Not really necessary, but like can help you make really informed decisions. Again, going back to GPT-4, wonderful tool for data analysis. You can now dump massive CSV files, Excel files, basically, into GPT and have it pull out all kinds of cool trends, makes graphs for you. I shared this with a couple of you earlier this week, but one of the really nerdy things that I did is I use a to-do list app, a paid app. I pay $4 a month for Todoist, which is one of my favorites. It has tens of thousands of to-do list items that I've done over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I took the entire historical data, I put it into GPT-4, and I said, hey, tell me what tasks I do the most and how long they take on average. And give me a graph. I go, great. Now tell me how I can do those tasks less, either outsource, delegate, find an online service that do this, and help me build time back into my life. And it goes, great. Here's the top 20 things that you do a lot of. You go to the dry cleaners, you go to the post office, you do a lot of laundry, you go to the gym, you process email. Here's about how much time you spend on all of these. Here's how you can be more efficient with those times. Very, very cool. Make some more recommendations. So you can kind of interface with GPT, give it data with you and your life or your organization. And it's really wonderful as in terms of just having a human conversation. You don't have to speak computer to do it. You just have it in plain English as if you're talking to an expert, and it does an amazing job with it. This is kind of new. GPT wasn't doing this earlier this year. The feature was rolled out, I think, maybe 2 months ago. To be on that GPT-4, you do have to have the paid version, which is $20 per month. But I promise you, if you're a nerd like me, it's the most amazing thing. Same thing with Tableau, just great data analytics tool, highly recommended. The next is graphic design tools. If you don't have an in-house graphic design person or you're not outsourcing that, Canva is super easy to use with a little bit of learning and can make you a social media post, can make you an email, can make you a flyer. If you're going to make something from scratch, don't start with the blank page, start with Canva. It's so much better. There is a paid version that has more features. Highly recommend it. It's got 1 million royalty-free templates and icons. You can import your own logos and hex colors into it. Very, very powerful. The other online version that's kind of the competitor of that is Adobe Express. It's kind of a smaller version of, have you ever heard of Photoshop or Illustrator? Kind of rolled into one. Does a lot of the same things Canva does. So if you don't want to use Canva and you have an Adobe Suite subscription, would highly recommend that. But just for like graphic design and flyer design and all that kind of stuff, start there first. Incredibly powerful. Much, much better than the Microsoft Suite as of right now in terms of getting you templates and start. And that might change as Microsoft is investing billions into AI right now. But as of right now, Canva kind of is king in that space. And then the last is if this, then that, which is IFTTT. And I'll explain that in a second. Zapier, and of course, the Microsoft version of this workflow. These are kind of just automations you can set up within your email inbox, within your various systems. If this, then that connects every single one of these apps that we've talked about so far. There's a million examples I could give of this. One might be, if anyone emails me with the word donation in it, automatically send me a push notification. Or if anyone, all of the emails that I send back with donor acknowledgement letters, put those into our database as of this. So you can have all these these little connections. So you have all these apps that you do, or if you see an email that says, if it has the phrase, can you send me, it will automatically take that and dump it into your to-do list or your project management system for you. I could go all day with this. There's a million different things. I use this all the time. It's a really wonderful tool. It's also really useful in like home automation. So you can have it be like, hey, at sunset, turn on all my lights. If you have smart home lights, my house does this. So this is probably not a surprise. Oh, Canva is free for nonprofits. I did not know that. That is interesting. So Emily and Will both saying Canva is free for nonprofit. Thank you for sharing that. I learned something today too. That's amazing. That's a wonderfully new. So yeah, definitely use Canva. Zapier, same kind of thing, a little more complex. We have stuff that integrates with like our database system. So if like someone fills out a website form, it dumps certain information to our database. It sends certain people an email depending on what they're saying. It just kind of takes some of the manual work out of the everyday processes. Microsoft Workflow, same thing. Again, we could go a whole academy on that, but just want to make sure that you know that those tools are out there. They're incredibly powerful. We use them every day because we know the value of them. I would highly recommend you look into it or see what your IT department can do. So with that, we're going to wrap it up and see if anybody else has any questions.